All praise, glory, and honor is certainly due to the Most High, God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel, house of faith. I count you a blessing each and every time that I can come before you to preach the word of God. Never do I count it as a light thing to do so. My apologies for coming on so late this evening, brothers and sisters. So without further ado, let me get right into the lesson. And it's simply dealing with the body to come. The body to come. You know, humanity is in a state of turmoil. And what is that turmoil? Simply being in a body that decomposes. Okay, so let's turn to the book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to pick it up at chapter 9 and verse 3. Chapter 9, actually, and verse 3, or verse 2. It says, all things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean, and to the unclean, to him that sacrificeth and to him that sacrificeth not. As is the good, so is the sinner. And he that sweareth an oath, as he that feareth an oath. So, brothers and sisters, this is a universal thing. It's something universal that's happening to all. Solomon goes on to write, this is an evil among all things that are done under the sun, that there is one event unto all. Yea, also the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live, and after that they go to the dead. See, that's the evil. That's the evil. That's the terrible situation that man is in from death because of sin. Okay, when God told man, in the day that thou eatest of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt surely die. Once you commune with, in other words, once you commune with that wicked one, once you commune with Satan, you will die. And man has been dying ever since. He said, in that very day, and the day of the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Adam lived to be 930 years, Methuselah 969, but man cannot get out of that day. And then man's time was cut. So now if we make it to 80 years old, we've lived a long life. Okay. And madness is on hot while we live, and after that we go to the dead. Okay, Ecclesiastes, sticking with what Solomon wrote, we're going to skip chapter 12. And here, in him telling us what we need to do in regard to his commandments, he says something. This is Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 1 about the breakdown of the body. He says, remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth. So it is ideal that you would deal with the Lord when you are young. He tells you why. He says, in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. So what he's saying is, there's gonna come a time in your life, if you keep living, that you're not gonna have pleasure in your life in those days. Why? Because it's going to be hard, because your body is breaking down. He says, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. And the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. So he's speaking using figurative language. But he says, when the keepers of the house shall tremble and the strong man shall bow themselves. So when your hand, you've ever seen an older person, or one of our elders, and they shake. When they say, and the strong man shall bow themselves. So you bowed over, your knees are bent, you're bent over, and the grinders cease because they are few. Your teeth literally fall out of your mouth. And it says, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. So even your eyesight is waning. he goes on to describe this breakdown or this march to a specific event. Verse 7. Then shall then shall the dust return to earth as it was. He tells you, from dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. See, this should put something on your mind. If you've lived a little while, you understand death to a degree. You understand that it comes for all. I wasn't very old before I saw somebody die right in front of me. And it was because of illness, it was a terrible death. And I've gone on to see other people die in front of me. Then I've gone and see violently and through illness. And what did they do after that? They put them in the ground. Death is a consistent reminder for the living of sin. It's a consistent reminder of the consequence of sin. It should put something on our mind. If we know that time is coming, how should we behave? If we know people that you've seen people die, you know people personally that have died, say, man, I just talked to him. I just saw her. I can't believe it. Why you can't believe it? It's happening all around you. Then shall the dust return unto the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. What spirit? And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed it into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. That's the spirit he's talking about, the breath of life. And we know that just from Job. If we just read it here in the 27th chapter, Job says something. So we know this spirit. He says in Job 27 and verse 3, all the while my breath is in me and the spirit of God is in my nostrils. Again, that's the spirit he gave. So he's saying, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was. That's you. We are but dust. That's we are but dust. And the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. Vanity of vanity, said the preacher, all is vanity. See, that's the condition. That's the human condition. Let's go back to the book of Job. And we're going to pick it up at Job, the 14th chapter. Because even though these lying hypocrite preachers will come to you and tell you that really at a funeral, death is not death. Death is death. You say he's going on this long homegoing. He's going to be with the Lord. You're going to be in the ground. And worms going to eat your carcass. That's the reality. That's the harsh reality of it all. And here Job talks about the brevity of life. He says, man that is born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble. Not only is life short, it is full of heartache, pain, turmoil, chaos. Trouble, chaos. Trouble, chaos. That is the cycle of life ultimately. Even when you're born into a situation. Man, oftentimes a terrible situation. Man that is born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble. Your life is short, and all the while you're here, it's nothing but trouble. He cometh forth like a flower and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow and continueth not. See, just like a flower, you can see I have tulips in my yard. I said, man, those tulips were there before I moved. I didn't plant those tulips. Those tulips were there when I moved in this house. I said, man, those tulips are not. And then next thing you know, they're not there. You look at your shadow on the ground, next thing you know, it has vanished. So he said, he cometh forth like a flower and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow and continueth not. Then he says in verse 10, but man dieth and wasteth away. Yea, man giveth up the ghost, and where is he? So man indeed dies, and he wastes away. goes back to the dust, and it says, he giveth up the ghost. That's the spirit or the breath of life. And where is he? As the waters fell from the sea, and the flood decayeth and drieth up. See, just like how you can have waters, they'll fail from the sea, and the flood decayeth and drieth up. It'll be a flood 1 minute. It'll be a flood 1 minute, and then it won't be a flood. So it says, oh, that water's gone. You don't have the water that was there in Katrina. Even Puerto Rico, the waters have rescinded or have been withdrawn. He says, as the water fell from the sea, and the flood decayeth and drieth up, so man lieth down and riseth not, till the heavens be no more. They shall not awake nor be raised out of their sleep. So man lies down and riseth not till the heavens be no more. So much for somebody saying they off into heaven, or gone into heaven, because he said you lie down and riseth not up. How is you dying and then going off immediately to be with the heaven? How is that a consequence of sin? How is that death? No, that's not death. He said you're going to be there until the heavens be no more. When is that? What's he talking about? He's talking about the time of the resurrection. You're going to be in the grave. It says, oh, that thou wouldest hide me in the grave, that thou wouldest keep me secret until thy wrath be past. So even Job knew about the wrath of God that was to come. Then he said that thou wouldest appoint me a set time and remember me. He said, if a man dies, shall he live again? So if a man dies, will he live again? All the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change come. If a man dies, shall he live again? He said he's going to wait until his change. See, there's a change to come, a new body to come. He says, thou shalt call and I will answer thee. Thou will have a desire to the work of thine hands. So he said, you're going to call and I'm going to answer. Let's go to the gospel according to John chapter 5. The gospel according to John chapter 5 and verse 28. Because here the Messiah tells us about what Job was just telling us that was going to occur. He says, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in the which all that are in the grave shall hear his voice. See, again, so much for you being off into heaven now. Even Jesus himself said, no man hath ascended up to heaven. He even told you, whether I go, ye cannot come. When you die, you are in the grave. That's one of the biggest okie dokes in the world, that you would see somebody die, you put them in a casket, you have pallbearers carry them, put their casket in a hearse, drive to the cemetery, take the casket out, lower it in the ground with grave diggers, lower it in the ground, and then you believe though that the person is not there. How does that work? So it said, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in the which all in the grave shall hear his voice. You're going to call and I'm going to answer. He says, and shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation.